Let's get right into it here with story number one. Brian Robinson on his way out in Washington. This was rumor speculation for the last, I don't know, week or 10 days that Brian Robinson could be cut, might not make the team, could be traded. I didn't really believe it fully until friend of the show, Ben Standig, reported it. And now the Commanders have basically confirmed it through their actions, through their words. Brian Robinson is going to be cut or traded. This has caused people to lose their minds about Ja'Cory, aka Bill Krosky Merritt. Oh my God, I can't go on Twitter. I used to see all kinds of crazy things, political stuff, girls, all kinds of. Now all I see is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is every tweet that I see. Evan, what was your reaction to this whole Brian Robinson saga?
Yeah, and shout out to Ben Standig, who is awesome at his job, has been for a long time. We bring him on. We always bring him on before the draft because he's one of the best mock drafters, like in the world. But he's also like a really good beat reporter. And over the years, I remember when he started, he was kind of small time, but he's gotten to the point where he has like legit sources. I mean, I would put his information up against any other Washington beat writer, and he got a lot of criticism for couching it. I mean, he's not a guy who says outlandish things at all. Very grounded guy, and he got a lot of criticism. And I mean, now Schefter's reporting it, so shout out to Ben Standig for being all over this, crushing this situation. Brian Robinson is not going to be a Washington Commander in 2025, like by almost all accounts at this point. Chris Russell, who also covers the team, said something happened late last season, and this had kind of been in the works. Chris Rodriguez, I mean, I think that Chris Rodriguez could be 95% of Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is a very replacement level talent. And all the Commanders needed to incentivize them to move on from him was Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt stepping up, showing that he can be an NFL back. But Chris Rodriguez did play ahead of him in the last preseason game and outplayed him in that particular game. Now, these are really small sample sizes, 5-6 carries here for each player. But Chris Rodriguez has been with the team, and he has truly the most like Brian Robinson skill set. So I would be a little concerned. Like I'm not moving Ja'Cory Krosky up too much higher than like 95 overall, which is where I believe I have him right now. Because number one, he has a extremely limited track record of catching passes, and Chris Rodriguez is going to be a problem for him. And I think that Chris Rodriguez could be the dude at the goal line. Austin Eckler is definitely not going away. I think he's an extreme favorite to lead this backfield in snaps played this season. So I think that the hype has probably gotten a little too out of control on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Definitely draftable, a top 100 player for me, but barely. And Chris Rodriguez can end up being the goal line guy.
Right. So the question is, how many running back points are there available here when Jaden Daniels is accounting for so much of the scoring? Austin Eckler's role was always going to be intact, right? No matter what happened with Brian Robinson, we know Austin Eckler's in the 2-minute, in the 4-minute, I think, and in all the pass downs. Now, I think you can say Austin Eckler has a chance to get a little bit more of the base work and maybe a little bit more of the goal line work. I still think that Krosky Merritt and Chris Rodriguez will be the main guys there, but Eckler definitely got a boost. We're up to 141 overall on him in the ETR ranks. And yeah, we are not even as high as Evan. I've seen Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt go in the 90s in some like high stakes best ball stuff. We're at 135 overall on Krosky Merritt right now. And like based on the way the hype is going, we're just not going to get him at that rank, depending on how close your league mates are paying attention. I know it's hard to get there if you're going to give Eckler a bunch of pass work. You're going to give Jaden a bunch of rushing work. You're going to give Chris Rodriguez some short yardage work. It's going to be hard to get there on projection in Krosky Merritt for sure.
Yeah, it's looking like a 3-man backfield right now. We've talked about that, time and time again. In we can deal with 2-man backfields in, high scoring situations or super run heavy situations, or just where they feature the running backs. 3-man committees are really difficult to deal with in fantasy. And then you add in the fact that Jaden Daniels probably projects for like 800, 900 rushing yards himself. It's almost like a 4-way running back committee. So I do like Austin Eckler a
Yes.
decent amount.
Yes.
I've been drafting him a good amount, but I'm not trying to get too excited about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or Chris Rodriguez.
For what it's worth on Krosky Merritt, Evan, I don't know if you remember when we had Renner on. Renner was high on Krosky Merritt, and this was when nobody even knew who Krosky Merritt was. Renner had him as his RB8 in this entire class, ahead of Kaleb Johnson on Krosky Merritt. Now,
Renner is an animal, by the way. Like,
yeah.
if you guys are not listening to Mike Renner, like, you are doing it wrong when it comes to draft stuff.
And so if you think he's actually really, really good player, better than Kaleb Johnson, sorry, I could see him running away with it. That's just not the projection that we're going with right now. The last piece of this I want to ask you about, Evan, is where do you think Brian Robinson goes, and does it matter? I wrote down some teams that I thought were at least possible. 49ers have a lot of injuries right now. They could use Brian Robinson as some depth maybe. Texans, obviously. Bears, certainly if they don't like Roshan Johnson or if he's injured. And then Titans with the Spears injury. To Evan's point, I don't think Brian Robinson is going to blow up any backfields. He's just not good enough to do that, right? So wherever he goes, I don't know that he goes in and just dominates carries anywhere. But yeah, Evan, any thoughts on where Brian Robinson might land?
I think he could end up going anywhere. I mean, he does have a useful skill set, but he's just a very strict role player. He's pretty good at what he does, but he's just a one-dimensional role player, two-down grinder. A lot of teams can make that into a useful skill set, but I wouldn't be excited about it. I did leave him in the top 150, but he's like 145 or something like that. And I look, if he goes to Dallas, like, I'll shoot him way up.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know where he's going.
Or Houston. I mean, maybe we'll talk about Nick Chubb stuff here in a second. Last question that people are asking, Evan. Brian Robinson also got shot. Ricky Pearsall got shot. Does the way that this has run out for Brian Robinson, many are asking, make you question the getting shot narrative? In other words, Brian Robinson got shot, and now he's getting cut from a team when he's only set to count $3 million against the cap. Does this worry you about Ricky Pearsall?
I mean, I don't know what we're talking about. This is not a serious question. What Brian Robinson did to get himself onto the field that year after getting shot, and I think he got shot in both of his legs, right? During like a carjacking or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, but I don't know what that has. That has no relevance to Ricky Pearsall whatsoever.
The getting shot narrative is 0 for 1 so far, is what people are saying. We'll see if Ricky Pearsall can even.
Wait. How is it 0 for 1? He came back and played.
He came back, but now they don't even want him for $3 million against the cap.
That has nothing to do with Ricky Pearsall at like whatsoever. We can move on.
Okay. The many men narrative, producer Ryan is calling it. Okay. Story number 2. Colts make their quarterback decision, and they decide to go with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen gets out here and claims that Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for the season. I do not want to have a short leash on that. I think it was the wrong decision if you're looking at it for the long view from the Colts perspective. If I was a Colts fan, we used the number 4 overall pick on Anthony Richardson. Yeah, if I wanted to win a game tomorrow, I think Daniel Jones is the better pick. If I wanted to win a game later in September, Daniel Jones is the better pick. But I need to find out what Anthony Richardson's ceiling is and if he can find it. He might only be like 3% to find it or 5% to find it. I would like to find it, see if I can find it, considering he's 23 years old. And he was the 4th overall pick on him. He's made 15 career starts. So I don't know, man. I get why Steichen did it. He's trying to win games and save his job. I don't think it's the right decision for the Colts. And, part of the reason I'm tilted, people accuse me of being biased because I've drafted a bunch of Anthony Richardson already in best ball, and those people would be absolutely 100% correct. I have drafted a lot of Anthony Richardson in best ball, but I still don't think that colors my opinion on this too badly. Evan, what did you think of the Colts decision to go with Dimes over A-Rich?
I mean, I kind of had expected this all along. I think that Chris Ballard went around and told all his buddies in the national media, we signed Daniel Jones. He's going to be our starter. Chris Ballard's trying to save his job. And I saw you did a tweet about the Colts ownership. Their owner died.
Yeah.
Like in May or June. And Jim Irsay left the team to his 3 daughters. So this is a team in extreme transition
Yeah.
up top. And I know we don't talk about ownership situations very much because we do fantasy football, but I mean, that stuff definitely impacts, I think, the product on the field. I mean, you could go across any organization in almost any sports franchise, like the best teams have the best owners. And right now, this is a team in extreme transition, and there isn't necessarily, solidified leadership up top.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from a fantasy perspective, it does matter, right? Daniel Jones is a big difference from Anthony Richardson. We've continued to tick up Tyler Warren in the ETR ranks. We're up to 92 overall on him now.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren has played on 34 of 35 snaps this preseason with the starters, caught 4 balls for 65 yards on 6 targets. Evans at 98 overall on Tyler Warren. Josh Downs is dealing with a hamstring injury, but this is a bit better for him also, I think. And same with Michael Pittman. Evan, any moves for you in the ranks off this Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson news?
I have not actually made any formal moves because I all along kind of thought that it was going to be Daniel Jones because that's the vibes that they were giving off. I also think that there's more going on behind the scenes with Anthony Richardson than we know. And I think that him almost proactively getting himself injured on that play in the Colts first preseason game where he did not slide protection over to get that guy, didn't even see the free pass rusher gets hurt. That says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot about where Anthony Richardson is in his development. I mean, there were, when he got benched last year, Shane Steichen openly criticized Anthony Richardson's preparation for games. The center, Ryan Kelly, hated Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
He quit on the team. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that isn't discussed that, is, I mean, I think it's not a good situation. And then his agent came out, Anthony Richardson's agent came out and criticized the team. There's a lack of respect. No, buddy, your client lost a training camp battle.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know if he's. I mean, I wonder if they would be willing to trade him for a 4th round pick. I mean, if I was the Saints, I'd give up a 4th or 5th round pick for him.
Sure. One guy that we haven't talked a lot about this summer, Evan, is Jonathan Taylor. I think there's very few backs in the league whose team is willing to give them the ball 30 times in a game that has the ability that Jonathan Taylor has. And so I do take Jonathan Taylor in that group. I prefer Chase Brown, but I take him in that group with Bucky Irving and Josh Jacobs. And I would consider Jonathan Taylor to be right there. And I do think this Daniel Jones thing is better for JT too. So we have him at 21 overall JT for us in the ETR ranks, half PPR.
Like it. Yeah, I think this is really good news for him. I think it's really good news. You remember the stats from Anthony Richardson, just never threw the ball to running backs in college. And that's not his skill set to be a check down passer.
Yep.
Also, reception perception has started charting quarterbacks. And oh my God, Anthony Richardson's reception perception quarterback charting is atrocious, man. I mean, he's horrible on everything except for checkdowns, which he doesn't throw, and screen passes.
Right.
He's horrible throwing any other route.
Yeah. No, I totally agree on the checkdowns to JT, even though he may not play third downs. We'll get to more in a second on the later in the running back stuff. But Silva is at 19 overall in his rankings on Jonathan Taylor.
I've been getting a decent amount of him too. I mean, he was a massive league winner down the stretch last year.
Yep.
And he's been healthy all throughout training camp.
For sure.
I'm pretty fired up about Jonathan Taylor.
Speaking of rankings, I know you have a draft coming up. I honestly think even if I wasn't part of ETR, I would only show up to my draft with the ETR rankings just because I know how hard we are grinding on this stuff. And then if you want other content like the in-season trade calculator, Thorman's rankings, in-season waiver wire help, that's all a bonus. Head to establishtherun.com and find the draft kit. It's $49.99. Also check out the bundle, which combines Draft Kit Pro plus our in-season product at the lowest possible price. Again, Draft Kit Pro on establishtherun.com for all your fantasy football drafting, torturing your opponent needs. All right, let's go to story 3, Evan. Speaking of quarterback decisions, Browns make their decision, decide to go with Joe Flacco. Not a surprise here. Even at 40 years old, Joe Flacco waltzes through this quarterback competition. never was a doubt, I think, that he was going to be named the starter. Obviously, good for Jeudy, Njoku, Tillman, Harold Fannin. We were kind of assuming Flacco was a starter, so not many moves for us here on Brown stuff. Evan, any reaction to the Flacco news?
Yeah, nothing unexpected here. It does make me more willing to click. I mean, I didn't move up Njoku or Jerry Jeudy or Cedric Tillman or anything like that, but it does make me more willing to click them. I also like Dylan Sampson a little bit better on the heels of this news. This was expected, and I still think that we get at least 3 different Browns starting quarterbacks this year, if not 4,
Right.
whenever Kenny Pickett can get healthy, because Shedeur Sanders looked good in the first preseason game. Dylan Gabriel looked good in the second preseason game.
Well, that's the thing, and that's my concern here, because if you told me Joe Flacco was starting all season through the fantasy playoffs, I'd be okay. Now, the problem is during the fantasy playoffs, it's probably not going to be Joe Flacco out there, right? It's going to be one of these other witherists like a Gabriel or a Shedeur, and the Browns play at Chicago, could be tough weather, versus Buffalo, could be tough weather and difficult defense, home against Pittsburgh, could be tough weather, difficult defense. So their playoff schedule is really difficult from both a weather and a matchup perspective. And then you also throw in that it's probably not going to be Flacco as quarterback. So, it's hard to get lower on ranks for the full season when Jeudy and Njoku and Tillman are going to look so good when they play up tempo and Flacco plays so wildly. But yeah, it's just tough for me in the fantasy playoffs. Last note on this, Harold Fannin sat with the rest of the starters in their last preseason game. So it seems like that big plans, at least for Harold Fannin this season.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate, Zach Jackson of The Athletic on a show on a podcast recently with Robert Mays, he was talking about how he wouldn't be surprised if David Njoku gets traded at some point, maybe before the season, maybe before the trade deadline, and that would open up a lot of opportunity for Harold Fannin. They love Harold Fannin.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell third-round rookies don't get the second preseason game off.
Right. And honestly, a trade might be fine for Njoku's fantasy value too. If someone wants him and goes and gets him, it might be a better situation than it is in Cleveland down the stretch there. Speaking of the Browns, story number 4, the Quinshon Judkins situation. So prosecutors in the case declined to pursue charges against Quinshon Judkins. Now, he can still be suspended under the personal conduct policy. And as we're recording this Wednesday afternoon, Quinshon Judkins' rookie contract remains unsigned. He still has not practiced with the team at camp. So I know there was a big knee-jerk reaction for everybody to move Judkins up a ton in their rankings. I wasn't that interested in him anyways. He still could be suspended. He still hasn't practiced with the team. So I still haven't clicked into Judkins really much at all. Evan, any reaction to this suspension?
He doesn't even have you and Quinshon Judkins have the same number of NFL contracts right now.
Yeah.
Also, he has not even signed his contract. So I was like, should I move him up? I have him even out of the 150, and I'm like, no, I still don't want him. It's a bad situation on paper, really bad environment. Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford are both going to play. We got the incoming musical chairs at quarterback. He's like a 2-down pounder on a bad team in an offense that isn't going to score points, and he can still get suspended. So I'm just like, no, I just don't want him.
Totally agree. And to Evan's point about how bad this offense could be, we just reran the implied team total stuff from the look ahead lines. This team, the Browns, are implied to score 18.5 points, dead last in the NFL by a wide margin. Next lowest is the Saints at 19.1 points per game. So yeah, it's just a rough situation all around. All right. Story 5, speaking of suspensions, there's some fresh Rashee Rice news here. Here's what we know right now on the Rashee Rice suspension. The NFL wants 8 games suspension on Rashee Rice. Rice's camp and the NFLPA think that that's crazy. They want 1 game or 2 games. So it's going to an arbitration hearing. Sue Robinson, same arbitrator who did the Deshaun Watson case, she is going to rule on this. What we do not know is A, what will she rule in terms of how many games, and B, how long will it take her to make a ruling, which I think matters too for when Rashee Rice's suspension actually kicks in. So I've been in favor of ticking down Rashee Rice somewhat aggressively in the ranks. I know some people think he still can come back and be a really good hammer for the fantasy playoffs. I get that. Also, Evan, where do you come down on the current Rashee Rice situation?
It's one of the toughest situations right now because we still have no finality to how many games he's going to be suspended. We don't know when the suspension is going to kick in. You know, I have him at 56 right now, and I don't love it, but I haven't moved him down. I don't know. I've got him between like DK Metcalf and Devontae Smith,
Yeah.
and just ahead of DJ Moore. Like, I don't know what to do, man. I would love for you to make a convincing case, one way or the other, and I can make a move here.
So the reason that I think I would have him lower, and we have him 64 in the ETR ranks, I would probably personally have him even lower, is that it could take Sue Robinson 2 to 3 weeks to make her decision. I also don't think that Rashee Rice has a great case. This is literally on video, and he literally had like felony charges. So, I mean, it's on video. It was national news. He has felony charges. I don't see what NFLPA or Rashee Rice's case is going to be. And so I think it's going to be 6 games, maybe more. And then if it takes her 2 weeks to rule, well, now we're talking about he's not going to come back until week 14, week 15. Are we really going to be like, all right, let me just jam him right back into my lineup? Maybe. But so I feel okay being relatively out. And we keep moving Xavier Worthy up. We're up to 40 overall on Xavier Worthy. Silva's at 53 overall on Xavier Worthy here as well.
Yeah. God, the talent of Rashee Rice, that role is just so sick. I mean,
Speaking of Chiefs injury,
if for some reason he only gets 5 games, like I want him.
Right. He could. 5 is possible. I do think it's going to happen this season. In other words, people keep saying, "Oh, what if it could get pushed to next season?" From what I understand, it's going to happen this season. It's just a question of how many games. Speaking of Chiefs wide receiver news, Hollywood Brown back practicing from that ankle. He's just been hurt for his entire Chiefs career. But if he can sustain health, he is going like free right now. Even in best ball, he's going like the 160s. We have him up at 132 in the TR ranks. Evan, any thought for you moving Hollywood back into the top 150?
Man, he's just so hard to trust.
Yeah.
This receiver core is just, it's killing me. I mean, I have no firm takes. I usually try to have a firm take, and I don't have any on these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at 160, I'd take Marquise Brown. I feel good about where we have him in that like 130-ish range. Okay. Story 6, Bucs wide receiver news. Jalen McMillan went down in like an awkward way on his back and neck, kind of got flipped over in the preseason game. He unfortunately lands on IR. They're saying he might not be back until week 10, and that seems like an optimistic or kind of a hopeful thing. Hopefully he'll be back week 10 or so. Also, Chris Godwin still not practicing. Speculation ramping up that he'll be out at least the first 4 weeks. Reporters saying that they haven't even seen him run out there even on a side field yet, whereas other rehabbing guys are running on the side field. Evan has made some ranking changes here up to 27 overall on Mike Evans. And the big one, Evan, that people are going to freak out about, Emeka Egbuka up to 35 overall for Silva here. Evan, go ahead on Bucs wide receiver changes.
Yeah, this was just a massive fantasy situation going on here. I mean, Jalen McMillan was going to be locked into 3 receiver sets to open the season. And now the Bucs are going to have to look at guys like Sterling Shepard.
Mm-hmm. Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard.
Trey Palmer. I mean, guys that are not going to command targets, and so this is a huge shift. Jalen McMillan had a pretty nice rookie season and definitely was a candidate for a year 2 leap. Now he's out for at least half the season. We've continued to receive no positive reporting whatsoever on Chris Godwin. Someone was saying that he hasn't even resumed running yet.
Yeah.
Cade Otton is a guy that, although he runs a lot of routes, he doesn't command targets either. And I think he's going to have to block quite a bit, especially if Tristan Wirfs ends up missing any time. So all of a sudden you have, you went from what looked like a really widespread ball distribution in Tampa Bay to a super condensed ball distribution in Tampa Bay. I moved up Mike Evans from wide receiver 17 to wide receiver 14. And I moved Emeka Egbuka up from wide receiver 40 to wide receiver 19.
Yeah.
I think that Emeka Egbuka could catch 100 passes this year. I think Mike Evans could score. I mean, he has like no touchdown competition outside of like Bucky Irving at this point within this offense. Baker Mayfield threw 41 touchdown passes last year. I don't think he's throwing 41 again.
Yeah.
If he throws 29, like Mike Evans is going to score 12 touchdowns, like without any kind of a problem. And Egbuka is already a dude that has been crushing every day in practice, has an extremely pro-ready skill set. Baker Mayfield has talked him up unprompted, and he's going to play every single snap for the foreseeable future on a shootout team that can't rush the passer defensively, is going to give up a ton of points.
Yeah.
I mean, I want Emeka Egbuka, and I was getting him when I had him ranked wide receiver 40. I was getting him a decent amount.
Yeah.
I want him on every single team from August 20th. We're recording this on Wednesday, August 20th, until the start of the season. I want to put Emeka Egbuka on every single one of my fantasy rosters from here on out.
Love it. Yeah. And on top of that, another thing, they play the Dolphins in week 17, fantasy championship week. Dolphins secondary, man, could be like horrific. And so, getting a Bucs receiver there for that week 17, I think matters a lot. One thing we did do in the ETR ranks was move Baker down. We were already super low on Baker, but we're down to 96 overall on Baker. His season log ADP is there around 67. I just think that's like a bad pick the way this is run out for Baker, who needs crazy efficiency to pay off any kind of, QB6, QB7 kind of tag. The hard part about the Egbuka stuff is if Godwin comes back, Chris Godwin is a big time target earner. Like Evan said, we have seen nothing positive on Chris Godwin. I think we're leaving the light on a little bit more for him in the ETR ranks. We have Godwin at 131, Egbuka at 60, Mike Evans at 33. But if we just eliminated Chris Godwin, be like, you know what? He's toast. Then we'd have Egbuka up where Evan has him. So it really comes down to what you think is going to happen with Chris Godwin. Will he comes back at some point? Right now, we are thinking we're giving him in the ETR ranks closer to, I believe, 8 games played this year, roughly. So yeah, I think that's the discrepancy there. Let's go to story 7. De'Von Achane hurt his calf. He's going to be out of practice at least a week. I think the calf soreness stuff, I mean, people just don't want to mess with that these days, especially after watching the NBA stuff with Halliburton, Tatum, Damian Lillard all going down after they watch what happened to Christian McCaffrey last year where calf turned into Achilles. So they're calling it preventative on De'Von Achane. Silva still dropped De'Von Achane down pretty decently in his ranks. Evan, is this one scaring you, the De'Von Achane calf injury?
Yes, absolutely. You combine it with the potentiality of this offensive environment just crumbling in Miami. And I went from having De'Von Achane as like a back end first rounder to 21st overall. And I think I put out my shy away list. I only had like 25 guys on it initially. I'm going to keep adding to it. I think I'm going to put De'Von Achane on the shy away list. Yeah, and potentially move him down the ranks a little bit. I mean, I would rather have, I think, I have Jackson Smith and Jigba behind him, T. Higgins behind him. I mean, these guys are just really strong picks. And De'Von Achane does not feel like a really strong pick right now.
I love De'Von Achane, man. The way
so do I. I think he'd catch 100 passes this year.
Like, he's gotten there in so many different ways. He got there last year just on volume and catching passes. In his rookie year, he got there just on no one could tackle him. There's so many different ways that he can get there. So
he's injured.
He's injured. This feels very preventative to me, but I hear you. I'm fine having him behind Chase Brown, JT, Bucky, Jacobs if you want, but I still think that, like, from a ceiling perspective, De'Von Achane is still, especially in full PPR, is still
straight up. Would you take him over Marion Hampton right now?
Yes. Yeah, I would. I would.
Live on the wild side, Levitan. You're a wild man.
Yeah. Speaking of the shy away list, Silva did make Tyreek the featured player, or one of the featured players in the shy away list. You guys can read that if you have DraftKings Pro up on the site right now. But you also dropped Tyreek in the ranks from wide receiver 16.
Yeah, and also I received some complaints that I put some obvious guys on there. I do that every single year. I mean, I'm not going to leave out the obvious guys.
No.
And also, it's not necessarily for fantasy players that have been drafting for the last 4 months, diabolical people in their basement.
Yes.
And I've been doing that too. Look, but like it's also for like people that are jumping in, getting the draft kit. All right, we got to avoid these guys. It's not
Yeah.
it's not necessarily for people that have been drafting for months and months and months, have listened to all the shows, already know the guys that I'm out on.
Yeah.
I'm going to put obvious guys on there, but I'm also going to add to it. We wanted to get it out a little early this year because people want it, but I'm going to continue to add to it for the next at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize, like, half the people that we're playing against in fantasy football don't even know who Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is. You know what I mean? And so, like, it's especially this time of year, definitely need to reiterate some of the stuff we've been talking about for the last few months. All right. Story 8. Kaleb Johnson has had some negative camp reports. Evan played poorly in the first preseason game. There were reports he was underwhelming at camp, some pass protection stuff, always scary with Aaron Rodgers. Played behind Gainwell in the second preseason game. Did think he looked much, much better. Silva did make a move on Kaleb Johnson in the ranks. He's down to 90th overall on Kaleb versus 67 overall on Jalen Warren. Evan, thoughts on Pittsburgh running backs right now?
Jerry Dulac, who is definitely tight with many members of the Steelers front office to the extent that they literally give him who they are going to draft every year. I mean, all you have to do is read his chat. He does these chats on the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and like the day before the draft, people were saying that he was going to draft that the Steelers were going to draft Shedeur Sanders. Jerry Dulac was like, they would not take Shedeur Sanders if he falls until the 4th round, which at that time was like crazy.
Right.
Shedeur Sanders was, I think he was the number 1 most mocked player to the Steelers at 22 or wherever they drafted. Jerry Dulac is like, no, they are not taking him. So you could take that to the bank. And where was I going with this? Oh, he said that the most disappointing aspect of Steelers training camp has been the running game. And that falls on Kaleb Johnson. Kaleb Johnson has not been able to pass Gainwell. And Gainwell seems like an Arthur Smith type of player, or Jalen Warren, who has that veteran, respect, chemistry probably with Aaron Rodgers. So, and also Kaleb Johnson does not have a particularly strong receiving track record. So he's just a guy that I'm letting other people draft at this point. I mean, you said I have a 90 overall. He's on the shy away list. I think he's still got some potential and he's got upside, but right now he's just a guy that I'm willing to let other people draft. I think that Jalen Warren is going to come out the gate playing like 65% of the snaps.
Yeah, I've gotten lower on Kaleb since the NFL draft also. And just if I have questions and it's close, I'm just not going to take the guy that's in an Arthur Smith offense. Like, I'm just not. And so, I mean, I talked about it on Market Monday. I mean, Arthur, as a rookie, didn't even give Bijan Robinson a full workload, so who knows what he's going to do with Kaleb Johnson. All right.
He did in Tennessee after Matt LaFleur rotate or used Deion Lewis as the lead back and Derrick Henry as a change of pace. He did reverse that. So not everything that Arthur Smith has ever done is wrong.
Story number 9, we got to talk about Jets running back again here, Evan, because in the second preseason game, Isaiah Davis didn't play, but they continued the heavy rotation. 11 snaps with the starters for Breece Hall, 8 snaps with the starters for Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen came in for a bunch of the short yardage stuff. Evan had previously buried Breece Hall in the ranks, and I see no reason to change that. Now we don't have him as buried in ETRs. I can explain more about that, but yeah, any more Breece Hall takes. Another shy away guy, I believe, Evan.
Yeah, I don't think that I have anything else to add that I haven't already said, written in on the shy away list. This is going to be a committee backfield on a team that isn't going to score many touchdowns. They've got 4 candidates for carries, on down to Isaiah Davis and, of course, Justin Fields. And I don't think that there's going to be much passing game volume. Well, there's not going to be much passing game volume for the team, but to the running backs, very, very little. And that's the strength of Breece Hall's game. And I hope he ends up on a different team.
Yeah. It's just on talent. I think he's more talented than Braylon and Isaiah Davis and I like Braylon, but Breece is just, I thought Breece was an awesome prospect. And so when a player like that gets into the 50s, I'm like, man, he's just too talented to go in the 50s, close my eyes and take it there. But his ADP in season long is still in the 30s, and so I think it's an easy pass there. I'd agree with Evan where Breece Hall's currently going. go to another thing I would just want to say about Brees. Like, we're at 43 overall in the ETR half PPR ranks, but I want to be taking wide receiver at that part of the draft anyways. And so we'll talk more about that. Hopefully you guys read my perfect draft and draft strategy articles on the site. But yeah, in that 40s range, maybe Brees is okay there, but I want to be taking wide receiver anyways. All right. Story 10, speaking of running backs, Kenneth Walker continues to have this foot maintenance. Now, he's practiced, I believe, 5 times so far this camp. Are you worried about it? And also, there's a lot of coach speak, Evan, around Zach Charbonnet, the gap between him and Kenneth Walker being tighter than people realize. So any worry for you on the Kenneth Walker foot and how are you handling him versus Charbonnet?
I mean, we did this on Man versus Machine, and I just, I felt like Leone has this level of confidence that Kenneth Walker is going to be the dude that I just don't have in a new offense, with the injury history and, the second round pick in Zach Charbonnet, and just everyone gets a clean slate. And I didn't have that. I didn't have that level of confidence in Kenneth Walker, and that's why I'm lower on him and I'm higher on Zach Charbonnet. And I feel really good about that. And I moved up Charbonnet more because he's a guy I want to draft right now. He looked awesome in the second preseason game. And what else looked pretty good was that interior offensive line that has been heavily criticized, including by myself. Gray Zabel, their first round pick, was just, he looked great.
Yeah.
And Charbonnet looks so good. He looks like he's in great shape. He's always been better in the receiving game than Kenneth Walker. He's a guy that I want to draft right now.
Kenneth Walker did show a pretty high ceiling receiving profile last year, I would say, but Zach Charbonnet is the guy.
He caught a lot of passes, but he averaged like 6 yards a reception.
Yeah. Charbonnet has shown he can carry a big workload and he is reliable, and they have talked about that. Kubiak has singled Zach Charbonnet out unprompted, and McDonald's talking about how much he loves Charbonnet also. So, yeah.
Kenneth Walker had 46 catches last year. That's a very good number in 11 games. That's a great number in 11 games for him.
Yeah.
But he averaged 6.5 yards per catch. The year before, he did average 8, almost 9 yards per reception. That's a really good number. But he was a guy who came out of Michigan State with almost no receiving track record. He's shown that he's functional in that area.
Yeah. A couple more notes on the Seahawks. Elijah Arroyo, I'm just keep getting more and more worried about his playing time. We've moved him down in the ETR ranks towards that fan-in range because I just think Barner is going to play like every snap. I don't think Barner is a pass catcher, but he's just going to be out there for like every snap. And so we have moved Arroyo down. And then the other thing I noticed from the game, Evan, I don't know if you saw this, it was the starters were out there. Darnold was out there. It's a 3rd and 1. They take out Darnold. They bring in Milroe and they do the tush push there. And so that was like, maybe they'll do that at the goal line. And that would not be great for Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet either if they start doing tush push there with Milroe at the goal line. So just want to point that out. All right. Story 11. This one is red meat, as they say, for Silva. It was Christian Kirk, not Jaden Higgins, in 2 wide receiver sets in the last preseason game. I thought there was some chance that the Texans saw Christian Kirk as a slot only guy, like only in 3 wide receiver sets, only in the slot. So I was at least encouraged that he was out there opposite Nico in 2 wide receiver set to start the game. Not great for Jaden Higgins, though. I know Evan's been low on Jaden Higgins throughout this process. We've also been getting a little bit lower on Jaden Higgins incrementally in the ETR ranks. Evan, any thoughts on the Texans wide receiver stuff from their last game?
Well, I will say that the Texans' new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, comes from the Sean McVay tree where they use a lot of 3 receiver sets.
Yep.
Historically, they've been known to play like every single snap in 3 receiver sets. And the Texans lost one of their sort of key reserve rotational tight ends in Brevin Jordan to a torn ACL about a week ago. So I think that they probably come out of the gates being a 3 receiver set team. But right now, Xavier Hutchinson has been playing ahead of Jaden Higgins. And you wonder if Jalen Noel is ahead of Jaden Higgins. So Jaden Higgins right now is on the shy away list. Christian Kirk, and I think that this receiving game is going to funnel through Christian Kirk and Nico Collins, and yeah, definitely feeling good about the Christian Kirk ranking right now. I mean, I get him all the time in drafts.
Yep. From the running back perspective in this game, Nick Chubb started, and I thought Nick Chubb looked better. Doesn't mean he looked good, but looked better. I think he's going to enter the season as the starter. A lot of people are getting hype about Dameon Pierce. I've been taking Woody Marks as like the cheapest piece with the pass
Me
game
too.
ceiling. But yeah, any final thoughts here on Texans running back?
Well, no. But I just to go back to Jaden Higgins, I do think that there is a very good chance that as the season progresses, Jaden Higgins gets more and more work, and in the second half of the season, he becomes a legit contributor. Hey, if Nico Collins goes down, like all of a sudden, Jaden Higgins could be an every week fantasy starter. But to begin, like it's hard to use a draft pick on a guy who's like a fourth or fifth receiver right now, hoping that in 7 weeks, I mean, that guy's just going to end up getting dropped.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's not a starting receiver right now, like he's going to end up getting dropped. He's going to be the first guy to go when you need somebody.
Yeah, it depends how big your bench is too. If you have like a 10-man bench, it's easier to stash guys like that for sure. But I know most people don't have that. All right. Story number 12, we have to readdress the Bears because contrary to what's been reported in camp, they looked good in their first preseason action. Kaleb goes 6 of 10 for 107 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Evan, any changes for you in ranks based on the Bears actually looking functional to good in their first preseason game?
Yeah, I mean it looked good. I mean, Caleb Williams faced zero pressure. He had a completely clean pocket playing against the Bills 2s and 3s. But hey, I mean, at this point, it's positive for his confidence.
Yeah.
Olamide Zaccheaus is going to open the season with a legit role.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm drafting him in fantasy, but I mean he's very clearly ahead of Luther Burden right now. The reports are that Roma Dunze is going to be their number 1 receiver, which really shouldn't surprise anyone, I don't think. And they've been giving him slot reps too,
Yeah.
which is really, really nice to see. But yeah, I mean, it was good for the confidence. That wasn't a real life NFL scenario.
I've been thinking about the Caleb bull case stuff a lot, and I think it's just comes down to, do you think he was actually this generational prospect that many people thought that he was coming out? David Au, who's been on the show a ton, was like, when Caleb's I guess it was his sophomore year, David Au was like, this is the best college quarterback I've ever seen,
Yeah.
and so if you buy into that, and then you also give him Ben Johnson, also give him all these great weapons, you can really get a ceiling case for Caleb that you can't get with many of these other guys that go around pick, 110, 120 and guys like that. So, yeah.
He is a superb talent. I mean, I question the other things.
Yeah.
I don't know. There just have been too many whispers about his commitment level and all things like that, and his processing speed. Those are where the questions come in. He is absolutely a superb talent.
By the way, Colson Loveland, 9 of 14 snaps with Caleb Williams in this game. Cole Kmet was in the mix. Also, I had them close for a while. Now I don't think it's that close. I think Tyler Warren should be way ahead of Colson Loveland in the ranks, and I kind of regret mixing that for a while. I much prefer Tyler Warren now to Colson Loveland. All right. Speaking of rookie steam, story 13, this TreVeyon Henderson steam, Evan. Evan, you have TreVeyon Henderson up to 33 overall in the latest top 150, right there with James Cook and Kyron Williams. A lot of hype around TreVeyon. I gave my take on TreVeyon in Market Monday, but Evan, go ahead on TreVeyon hype.
Yeah, I had him previously somewhere in the mid 40s, and it just got to a point where you were not going to get him anymore if I had kept him in the 40s. And I want people to get TreVeyon Henderson this year. I want to get TreVeyon Henderson on my team. So I moved him up to a range where you at least have a shot. I think it's pretty aggressive. 33 is pretty aggressive. What is that? End of the 3rd round?
Yeah.
Where do we take him in our draft with Leone?
Yeah, we got him in the 4th.
Early 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was 4.3.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna be able to get him there anymore.
I know. I thought that was a reach when we did that. And by the way, you guys can check out that draft. It's on YouTube. I thought it was a reach. And now it's going to end up with CLV with closing line value,
Exactly. And that's all that matters. Wins and losses don't matter. It's all about the closing line value, and we got that.
Story 14, Matthew Stafford returned to practice. This was back-to-back practices. He got in Monday and Tuesday. We'll see about Wednesday. They haven't practiced yet. I don't believe. Evan has Puka Nacua at 13 overall. Devontae Adams, 42 overall. I think you'd have them higher if we knew Stafford was going to be healthy all year. It's just, obviously, that's a huge question mark right now, but any temptation to move those guys up now that Stafford's back practicing?
No, because I don't think his week 1 status is in question. I'm worried about when he takes a sack.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
mean, it's a back injury for a 37-year-old dude. And I think that Puka is going to be fine, even if they have to play Garoppolo for 5 games. I worry about Devontae Adams. I wanted to come out guns blazing all training camp on Devontae Adams, be ahead of ADP. Dude goes out, scores 15 touchdowns. I think he can still play. It's just he needs Stafford.
Yeah.
He needs Stafford for that, and I just don't. It's not reliable.
Let's go to story 15. Quinshon Judkins sustained a concussion in the Chargers preseason game. And, he had been working as the X, right? So he'd been playing a lot. Like the 3 wide receiver set was Ladd, Keenan, and Quinshon Judkins. Keenan was the one coming in 3 wide receiver set. So Quinshon Judkins had been playing a ton. It looked like Lambert Smith was the direct backup to Quinshon Judkins. Trey Harris is more of the backup to Ladd McConkey, at least it looks like right now. But yeah, a lot going on in Chargers wide receiver core with Keenan Allen quickly getting assimilated. Evan, any thoughts on the Quinshon Judkins concussion or anything else?
I think it was kind of interesting that Keandre Lambert Smith, who was the star of the Hall of Fame game, jumped in for Quinshon Judkins.
Mm-hmm.
And then and Trey Harrison continues to be fairly buried. Trey Harris continues to be fairly buried, although he did have I think he had 6 for 85 in this game. So that was good for him. But I think that this is going to be like a 2 tight end team. I mean, they've got Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin, and they drafted Oronde Gadsden, who's made some waves. They also use a fullback at times, Scott Matlock. So I don't know how many 3 receiver sets this team is going to play. And, I mean, Ladd McConkey's a baller. Obviously, we know that. And Keenan Allen, it seems like you've begrudgingly come to embrace that he's going to catch 75 passes this year.
Yeah. I've been taking Keenan Allen when he's there in like the 130s. I especially in full PPR. Yeah, I take him. Story 16. James Cook, as expected, got his bag. 4 years, $48 million. $39 million guaranteed here for James Cook. So the Bills, we thought this was going to get done. It does get done. They make a pretty sizable commitment to a guy who, frankly, only plays like 47% of their snaps. $48 million, and he only plays 47% of snaps. My thought was, if you're going to give him this much money at the running back position, maybe he needs to play more. Maybe he needs to take some pass down snaps from Ty Johnson. Maybe he needs to stay out there for every series instead of giving Ray Davis a series here or there. So I thought it was pretty bullish, even though expected for James Cook. Evan, any thoughts on the contract from the Bills to James Cook?
I'm just glad it got done. It got done in plenty of time, too. I mean, he's going to have had well over 3 weeks of practice time under his belt before week 1. Yeah, over 80% of this deal, assuming that the guarantees are legit, over 80% of this 4-year, $48 million deal is guaranteed. He was dropping in drafts. I mean, you had Matthew Berry going on the Jimmy Fallon show talking about fading James Cook. And then literally the next day, I think he signed the contract, and he was talking about, and that, I'm not ripping Matthew Berry or anything like that, but it was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was right about everything he said at the time. It's just the next day, James Cook signed his contract. But I think he's going to end up being a good pick for anybody that got him like in the 4th and 5th round for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the tough part for me is just the TD rate. I mean, he only had 207 carries last year, 207 carries, and he scored 16 rushing touchdowns on 207 carries. And yeah, that season's going to happen. It can go the other way. The year before, James Cook had 237 carries and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So when you're relying that much on touchdowns like he is, it's a bit scary to me. But at the back end of the 3rd round there's not a lot of great picks that I want to make. And so I think it's just like, okay, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll take
the touchdown rate is definitely coming down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question. The good news is the Bills score a lot of touchdowns.
for sure.
And he is the lead back in a high-scoring offense.
Right.
With like the best offensive line in the league, too.
And after this contract, like I was saying, maybe they give him a little bit more from those other guys. All right. Story 17. I mean, at this point, I feel bad for the guy. Marshawn Lloyd, hamstring pull, unlikely for week 1. In 2024, Marshawn Lloyd had hip, hamstring, ankle, and appendicitis injuries. On July 28th of this year, hurts his groin, comes back. August 16th, hurts his hamstring. At this point, just undraftable to me on Marshawn Lloyd, which is painful for me to say because I thought if he could sustain health, he would actually have a factor, be a factor this year. They don't trust him. They can't trust him. I don't blame him. I don't trust him anymore. And frankly, like Josh Jacobs at the 2-3 turn, he's going to pay that off. I mean, there's just like no one to steal from Josh Jacobs right now. The offense is going to be functional. So, yeah, Evan, any thoughts on the latest Marshawn Lloyd injury? Sad times.
I think that I have nothing to add to what you said, unfortunately. And he was a guy that, whenever he's healthy for the, days that he is, like I'll be willing to draft him, but it's brutal because he's a really talented guy.
All right, last one here, story 18, small one, but Tyler Goodson got hurt, shoulder injury in their preseason game. And he was battling DJ Giddens to be Jonathan Taylor's backup. They both iced Khalil Herbert. So I thought that was notable. DJ Giddens reportedly had a good camp. Jonathan Taylor doesn't always play on pass downs. There's like room for Giddens to be a pretty profitable one injury away back. So I just want to put that out there. And then in other running back handcuff news, Will Shipley rested with the starters in the Eagles game, and they made A.J. Dillon play in that game. So conclusion there, looks like Will Shipley is pretty decently ahead there of A.J. Dillon. All right. That is going to do it for this look at NFL news, preseason games, and ranking changes. Be sure you're subscribed on YouTube. It is indeed free. Plenty more videos coming out before we get to peak drafting season. If you have a draft coming up, be sure you check out Silva's Shy Away list, my draft strategy, my round by round guide and favorite picks, as well as all of our rankings. For Evan, for producer Ryan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.